Welcome to the Top Secret Wedding Podcast. Our top secret tip for today is that if you want your employees to be prepared and trained for when things go wrong, then set up trainings where you purposely have things go wrong.
Want to learn what it means to never let them see you sweat? Listen to this episode. This is the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, where we share top secret tips to help you take your wedding game to the next level.
I'm Annika, and I'm a wedding coordinator, enthusiast, and venue manager for one of the best venues in Idaho.
I'm Chris, and I'm a DJ, master of ceremonies, and all-around lover of weddings.
We're on a mission to improve weddings and wedding professionals everywhere.
All right, so today we're talking about never letting your clients see you sweat.
Never let them see you sweat. Not literally.
Not literally. If you don't want them to literally, then wear black, but...
Yeah, that helps.
So I mean, what exactly does that mean?
I think really what it means is when something goes wrong, don't let your clients know about it.
Yeah, I think it's having a good poker face.
Good poker face. I like that. So this phrase, never let them see you sweat, comes from a guy named Phil Slott. I Googled for this episode. And he was an advertising guy, did writing. And he also had another phrase that I guess is less popular, but it's not just a job, it's an adventure.
I love that.
Right?
That's fun. Yeah.
But yeah, if something goes wrong, don't...
Not if. When.
When something goes wrong.
Something goes wrong.
And this guy actually wrote a book, and it was for presenters, people that are presenting.
Yeah.
Which gives it a little more context. But I think things are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
We know that.
It's inevitable. No matter how much you prep, that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
It's just life.
So why not be transparent about it, Annika? Why should we not let them see us sweat?
I mean, really, there's so many reasons. You don't want to cause panic.
Yeah.
I think you told me this. If someone sees you running, they're instantly like, well, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to cause panic. You don't need to distract from everything else going on.
Yeah. I think it just adds to client confidence when you just have a good poker smile.
Right. I mean, again, okay, so we reference this all the freaking time, but... It's a movie, but J-Lo in The Wedding Planner.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene in there where someone's like, look at her. She just has everything under control. And, like, it adds to your professionalism. It adds to your, like, just, they're the pro. Yeah. Like, you would never know if something was going wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because, I mean, that's part of the reason that clients hire you is for that confidence. And to know that is taken care of. That realm of the wedding is taken care of. Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, quite honestly, if something is going wrong, I consider it a success if they don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have so many stories with my team of like, remember when this happened, but the client would never know. Yeah. And so like, I consider it a success if we were able to handle it and manage it. Yeah. And they have no idea it happened.
Totally.
So.
I think the other thing that happens, though, if clients see that something's going wrong, they start looking for everything else that's going wrong.
Yes, I agree.
So you have to be careful because if you just open that door just a teeny bit, there are tons of things going wrong behind the scenes, but they don't need to know all those because the end result is just fine and beautiful. So
no, I agree. Yeah. I think one of the best compliments I ever received was a father of a bride was watching my performance throughout the day, which they do whether you realize it or not.
Pressure.
And he, at the end of the day, was just like, you are amazing at your job. I watched how you handled everything, and there were things going on that, like, his daughter, the bride, had no idea of. And he's like, she had no idea, but you just handled it with such grace, and you're amazing at your job.
Oh, I love that.
And that was honestly the best compliment I've ever received. Yeah. But, like, that's the goal, is you don't want to add to anything bad to the day. You want it to just go flawlessly. It's not going to go flawlessly, but they don't need to know that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Whenever I talk to your interns, right? Mm-hmm. Every new batch of interns, one of the things that I talk about is that you're always on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you realize it or not, but people are watching you. And if you flinch, they're going to see it.
I agree. Yeah. No, I completely agree.
So I think it also helps guest confidence in my sphere. Because I'm the entertainer, really important that I have the guest confidence, that the guests believe in me, that I'm able to run the show. And if things look like they're going off the rails, and I don't mean them to go off the rails, then it's going to be a problem. So they will stop listening to me. So, and I think it also feels good for yourself, because if you are acting like everything's going right, it's going to make you feel better. As opposed to if you start freaking out, it's a snowball effect.
It's like what we always talk about with children. If a child falls and you freak out,
I know what's wrong.
they're looking to you and they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong?
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, it's okay, you're fine, then they're like, oh, I'm fine. You know, it's exactly like that. If you go and talk to your couple and you're like, oh my gosh, everything's horrible, they're gonna be like, what's horrible?
Yeah.
But it's all how you present yourself.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So how do we do this? What are the things that we do? I think the first thing is you just got to be prepared.
Yep.
If you're not prepared, you are going to be asking more questions than you have answers to.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you look like you're not doing your job.
Yeah. I think it's so important too to be prepared with how you're going to respond when something goes wrong. So giving yourself that pep talk of like, okay, if something goes wrong, I'm just going to take a step back, take a deep breath. Like if you have a process, that's going to help you not panic, if that makes sense. Yeah. You know, one of my team members, like they dealt with a nice situation Saturday and they handled it flawlessly. But it was interesting because when we were debriefing about it, she was like, you know, the night before, I just knew. Yeah. I just knew something was going to happen. And so she was able to prepare and be like, okay, I'm on the lookout. Something's going to happen. And when it happens, this is how I'm going to handle it.
Yeah.
You know, and so she was able to prepare mentally with, okay, I'm going to take a step back, take a deep breath, analyze my options. It wasn't just instant panic.
Right.
So.
And I'm a big believer that when you have that feeling that something's going to go wrong, it's your brain picking up on all these little clues that you're conscious of. And so, prepare. Your brain is not stupid. Well, some people's brain, but your brain is not stupid and it knows. So, you should prepare.
Okay, back to elementary school or whatever. But it's like if you were to be caught on fire, what do you do?
Stop, drop, and roll.
You stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have that plan. If you didn't know that you're supposed to stop, drop, and roll, you'd probably just freak out and be like, oh my gosh, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
But it's so ingrained that you stop, drop, and roll.
Totally.
So.
It's a much smaller problem than they've led us to believe.
Yeah.
But I'm glad,
But it is ingrained in your mind.
Right, you know. So. Yeah. I think, it's also important, you kind of alluded to it, but it's also important to do trainings with your team of things that go wrong. There's a training that I sometimes do with my guys where I will have them leave the room and I'll go mess up like 4 or 5 audio things to stop the audio from working. And then I say, what's wrong? And they have to go figure out what's wrong. They find like something's just slightly unplugged here. There's batteries not in this thing over here. And so they have to go figure it out. And it's helpful.
I feel like you just blew my mind. That is such a great idea. I'm going to implement that.
And I'm not going to lie. I get a sick pleasure of watching my guys like try and figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
But I would rather watch them freak out in that moment than at a wedding calling me.
Oh my gosh. That's just like light bulb. Yeah, put it in a little training and that's going to be their chance to figure it out.
Exactly.
Instead of wedding day.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
So, if all else fails, sometimes there are situations that just go wrong.
Yeah.
And everybody sees it. Mm-hmm. These are the steps that I take to remedy that. I think first thing, don't blame in the moment.
Never blame. Ever.
If you blame in the moment, it could be the fault of something that you're not blaming and you're putting the blame on the wrong person. Mm-hmm. Also, it doesn't help.
That's my thing. It doesn't help. Why do it if it doesn't help?
Yeah.
It doesn't help at all.
Right.
So don't blame.
Yeah. I think we talked about it, but Sierra, there was a great example of her not blaming and just fixing the situation in the moment. So don't blame. Also apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Like get out in front of it and say, I'm so sorry this is going wrong. We're going to do everything that we can to fix it. right?
Exactly.
And then fix it in the moment. And if it's something that's catastrophically wrong, fix it to the best of your ability in that moment. People understand that life is life and it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You may have to later offer a refund, but
Right.
in the moment, make it work. It's a make it work moment, right?
Yeah.
Make it happen the best that you can. It might not be perfect, but they're going to be grateful that you didn't give up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is again, people are logical. They will notice if you are doing everything you can to fix it. Even if it's not possible to fix it, they will notice that and say, I appreciate your effort. Like, I see you are trying, you know?
Yeah, they're like you said, they're going to be logical. They understand. One of the trainings, I feel like I mentioned this a few weeks ago too, but one of the trainings that I did talks about the love story, and if you mess up, the people there, they want you to do a good job.
Yeah, they want you to succeed.
They're rooting for your success. Everybody at the wedding is rooting for the venue success, for the photographer's success, for the DJ. They're all rooting for you. So if you make a mistake and you own up to it and you try and make it better, it's like, how is that going to be bad?
Right. Yeah.
So,
no, I completely agree.
Yep. So that's my list. Anything else that you do?
I don't think so. I think it's just so important to remain calm.
Yeah.
Have a poker face.
Never let them see you sweat and fix the problem. That was the other thing I didn't mention in here. But, when something goes wrong, we're jumping back a couple of steps here. But when something goes wrong, because you've trained your team, you should be using your team to fix that. So, for example, if my music stops working, then I'm going to jump on the microphone and my team knows that they are going to go fix the audio problem with the music. I'm going to be on the microphone stalling, hopefully adding to the moment. But you should be fixing it as soon as you can. And if you do it right, they're not going to know there was a problem.
Agreed.
So,
I think too, it's just so important to, like, this is honestly one of the first things you need to train your team on, anybody that's there. My best example is we have interns that come to our weddings, and before they even start their first wedding, I'm like, hey, like, nothing's going to go wrong, but just in case, you need to have a poker face and be chill. Because again, they're going to be the ones that guests are looking at. And if your interns have no idea and they start freaking out, it's going to look exactly as if you are.
And the guests don't know that that's their first wedding.
Exactly.
For all they know, they've been there for 5 years.
Exactly. They might not even know that they're an intern.
Exactly.
So you just never know. It's important for your whole team to have a poker face.
Yep. So, people, never let them see you sweat, and you'll do a good job. Well, if you don't do a good job, never let them see you sweat, and they'll think you did a good job.
Yeah, I will say though, I'm gonna add one last thing.
Yeah.
But you also need to make sure they don't hear you sweat. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we use radios and walkie-talkies to communicate.
Right.
If it's possible, use the earpiece, because quite frankly, the guests don't need to hear everything that's going on the radio.
Right.
But if that's not an option and something, like, even if you have a radio and you're like, something is going wrong, you should use the common sense of, hey, it's probably out loud. So if this is something I need to make a phone call, let me make a phone call and step away.
Yeah.
They can see you sweat, but they can also hear if something is happening.
Yeah. I don't remember the term, but my first job was at a movie theater in LA. And I remember they would say, if there's ever a fire, that you say, there's a Mr. Darcy in the kitchen or something. I don't remember, Mr. Brown, I don't remember the name.
Something like that. Yeah.
But you should have that code so that you can communicate things that other people don't know. Like, hey, there's a Mr. Brown to see you in the kitchen. Like, oh crap, right? So, but the guests don't know that.
Exactly. So, I agree. I just think that's very important as well.
Yeah. Never let them see you sweat.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Top Secret Wedding Podcast.
Subscribe, rate, and review us, and we'll see you next time.